Welcome to Harmony at the Movies. We're going to review the very popular movie Sinners. If you've watched the regular channel, the main channel, you've probably already heard me and Shamika talking a little bit about the movie Sinners. I went to go see it on a Monday night at 10 p.m. Theaters were packed. It opened, I think, $60 million in box office. I think the number one movie in America. People are going to see this movie. I didn't like it. I don't like most movies. I really didn't like this movie. You've already heard a little bit of my take, but I thought the overall message of the movie was negative. I thought the plot was not. And I know it's a horror movie and a spoof, but I just didn't like the movie. It's a story about two twin brothers played by the actor Michael B. Jordan that seemed to be having left, maybe doing some crime for Al Capone in Chicago, and they've traveled back down to their hometown in Mississippi to set up a juke joint, a bar, a nightclub in this little small town in Mississippi. They do all this in a single day, buy the building, set up a nightclub, and at night they host a big party with, where it's kind of futuristic, or they're trying to show a connection that even in the 1930s, women were already twerking and there were people already DJing or whatever. But that's movie and that's, creative license, I guess. But then it turns into a vampire story where the vampires, or the initial vampires, are white and they seem to represent evil, and the black people are trying to save themselves from getting bitten by the vampires, and because if they get bitten by the vampires, they turn into vampires, they turn evil. And at one point, I think the white vampire says, yeah, once we kill all of you, we'll be in heaven. And then just out of nowhere at the end, the KKK shows up, and Michael B. Jordan shoots and kills 30 KKK guys that he somehow knew was coming. I don't know how he knew they were coming, and he prepared to ambush them. And then at the end, the woman that he killed, that he had sex with during the movie, she has she dies, she comes back to life, she's nursing. I don't know what happened. I don't know what the movie was. I was sitting there with my mouth wide open. The young people in the audience seemed to be eating the movie up. I would give it 0 stars out of 5 stars, or 0 stars out of 4 stars, or 0. It was a bad movie, but I don't like most movies. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm going to, with that introduction, I'm going to put Kevin on the spot first and make Kevin our diversity, our DEI hire.
Yes.
For harm.
Yes.
I'm going to make Kevin, your take on the movie.
Well, it started off really great. I thought like it was a time period movie. What was it, the 30s or 40s?
1932.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so it was a time period movie. I thought the character development was great. I thought Michael B. Jordan was awesome. I thought all the characters were great. The church, I thought it was going in the right direction. But like you said, the subtle KKK, like when the guy goes to the house and you see the KKK hood.
Yeah.
Now, these people are in the same position as the black people were. They were basically white Jim Crow era folks working in the cotton fields. And then it was, there was some subtle disrespect towards Christianity. Some disrespect towards, they were singing Irish folk songs. Here are these satanic people who are, infected with the spirit of Satan, it seemed like. And they're singing these joyful Irish folk songs, which I grew up listening to some of these, I'm half Irish. And then it got weird. Like I didn't understand when they had the dancing and they integrated some of the new hip hop. They showed the DJ. I was a little confused by that, but it's a movie, so I went along with it. And then I didn't really understand, like you just mentioned, the KKK guys at the end coming, and where did they come from? There was like a plot loss for me. I didn't understand why that happened and why he had to kill them all. I know he said early on, if you come back on my property,
yes,
I'll kill you, which,
How did he know they were coming, though? He was prepared.
How did
they
he
didn't
know?
surprise him? Yeah.
Well, and this is after being up all night,
Yes.
Fighting the vampires.
Yes.
And, there's an interesting take about vampires. I know Jesus versus vampires. Jesus came to give his blood so that we can have life. Vampires come to steal your blood so they can have life. It's all about, so Christianity, Christ is about giving his blood, dying for us. Being a vampire is about taking your blood so that you could have life. So it's selfishness versus giving, right? So I like that analogy within the movie. They don't have that in the movie, but that's the analogy I drew from it. And I also thought was interesting was, the light kills evil. Like when you come into the light, evil can't hide in the light. It can only hide in the darkness. So like when the sun rose and all the vampires died. But there was also some Carmelo Anthony stuff there too, with the stake in the heart. There's all these guys stabbing people in the heart with this wooden stake, So anyway, it was, on a 4-star, I give it a 2. I think here's the other piece too. It was kind of the pastor father said, "Put down the guitar." He was begging his son to put down his sin. Right?
Yes.
Instead, he held on to his sin, and it turned out that he kind of, at the end, he was a hero because he went on to play the blues all over. That's how the movie ended, with him as an old man playing the blues. So instead of turning from his sin that got him into all this trouble, he clung to his sin, and it was kind of showing them the young man who clung to his sin ended up being the hero, which I thought was a interesting take as well. So anyway, that's my DEI take for the day. I hope you guys appreciate it. I deserve a raise.
Virgil Anthony, who wants to go? The Walker brothers, who wants to go next?
Age before beauty. All right. Well, I'll take it. This is a movie that I think you have to watch with an artistic lens. Coogler is that kind of director. Is he adding a lot of messaging in here? Sure. But if you know how to interpret the movie, it takes on a completely different tenor. I'll break it down. This was a movie that dealt with a lot of twos. Twins. Okay, there's one. You had basically 2 different movies. You had a timepiece movie that could have just followed the narrative of the twins. Had you watched that movie, you would have, followed them, running this juke joint, having the party. Like that could have been an arc, following their stories with their love life. That was a whole movie in and of itself, dealing with black and the issues with racism and things of 1932. That's a movie. Then you have a horror movie, a vampire movie, basically. So he puts both of those together. There's another 2. You deal with slavery or the mindset, sharecroppers, etc., versus freedom. Okay? And when you look at that term freedom, everybody in the movie, and even everybody now, has an idea of what freedom is. Freedom could be financial freedom. Freedom could be, I'm free from my past. I'm free from this system. I'm free. Almost everybody in the movie, the main characters, had something that they were trying to get free from. So there's that angle of it. You had the whole KKK issue, racism issue. That was all in there. So all of that's in there. The whole deal with the racism, I don't see him trying to really make the argument about let's hate white people. It's a timepiece. Like if any movie that's set in that time that dealt with the culture, you're going to deal with that tension between black and white. So that I didn't see him pushing. As it related to some of the things you didn't get, Kevin, about the different kinds of music, it's actually said in the movie when Sammy was playing, he said that music has a way of transcending culture and time, past and future. So you had the old African dancers, but you also reached all the way to hip hop in the 90s. So that was just kind of a play on what music was doing. I'll say this so Virgil can have some time, because I got more, but I'll say this for Virgil. The other piece was Sammy was having to make a choice. Here's another two between the path that he wanted to take. He liked the path of the twins, this rough, evil path that they were following. You know, there was gangsterism involved, but it made some money. They did what they wanted to do on their own time. But then you also had the path that his father was trying to give him of, hey, follow the word, follow this path. He really, at the end, doesn't choose either. He chooses his own path. He doesn't go into crime and gangster and all of that. He doesn't take the path of his father in the church. He just kind of, hey, I just want to do some music. And that was him throughout the whole movie. Did he get into some of the other things? He was tempted by all of that, sure. But the other thing I'll end on this. I don't see there as any hero in the movie. I only see survivors. So they survive. The whole piece with the baby mama coming back, he was looking into the afterlife in that moment. So he got shot. He's bleeding out. And as he is in this getting a peer into the afterlife, because she told him, hey, I got somebody on the other side. Now he gets to see his girl that he was with and the daughter that they lost. And she's like, hey, you can live in this life too if you put that cigarette down. You go ahead and die. You can come live with us. But there's more, but yeah.
That I'll say this. That is where a lot of Hollywood TV making, movie making has gone in terms of a lot of TV shows, even say a Game of Thrones that I liked. But in order to really understand Game of Thrones, you needed to watch the TV show and read the books.
Gotcha.
And you needed to go read everyone's review and interpretations. And we're calling this art, but it's actually work. And we're calling it entertainment when it's actually work. It's like, oh, you can't even understand this movie or TV show unless you do all this additional study. And we've turned this into, it's a religion, basically. It's like, nope, you need to go to movie study like we go to Bible study so that you can fully follow. I'm just telling you.
I agree with you.
I'm being dead serious.
This
This is not. Because I see it in all TV shows. Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
That people call one of the greatest.
Yeah.
And first 3-4 seasons, it was great.
Yeah.
And then I saw the showrunner, and I forget his name, but he was very popular. He befriended everyone in the media, and the key Alan Sepinwall, and there was these key TV critics that he would feed inside information to about, well, here's what Walter White was thinking in this moment. This is what Gus Fring was thinking. And they'd go write stories, and they built big careers off, we'll interpret the TV shows. You watch them, then come read our stuff, and we'll tell you what actually went on. And TV used to not be that way. The Godfather, when I go to the movie, and when I watch it over and over again, that movie, that 2.5 hours, that's all I need. And I have read the book since.
Okay.
And when I've read the book, I was like, man, they really captured the book. The movie actually captured the book. And they exist independently as great art.
1 and 2, not 3.
Yeah, 1 and 2. But they existed as great art.
Yeah.
This stuff here where you have to, because I'm only speculating, but the young people I saw in this audience, there's no way they understood any of that. There's
Probably
to
not.
this, there's to that.
Yeah.
That comes from study. I don't think, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I would have to do a lot of reading up on what Ryan Coogler, what his movies are about, what he's trying to accomplish and all that to understand it on that level. And so I understand it on the simple level that he unpacked it. And even as a period piece, and I don't want to step on Virgil's toes, but because Virgil, I'm going to let you in here and talk for as long as you want. But even as a period piece, I thought it failed. The dialogue of both the men and the women, but particularly the women, they had them talking like it was 2025. These women were cursing and profane and talk, and then when they the whole, here's how I interpret the whole music thing and what the message they were trying to say is like, the underlying message is like, man, even back in the 1930s, them women wanted to twerk the way we twerking now. They just couldn't do it. This is just in us. And the movie's kind of conveying that hip hop and all the profanity and all, this is who we really were in the 1930s. And we're really just reflecting our ancestors. That's what I think most people's takeaway from the whole musical deal and what they were trying to convey in that is people trying to demonize this music. No, it was there in the 1930s. And, I used to talk to my grandmother and, my parents were born, I think, in the 1940s. Anyway, I need to shut up. Virgil, your thoughts on the movie?
No, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any idea about the producer or who made the movie or what the thought process was. I just saw that Michael B. Jordan was in it, and I thought, okay, this is an assignment. Let me go do what I need to do. I was excited about the fact that it was a period piece because I love the clothes and the outfits and that whole time period. I thought, man, this is great seeing people dressed sharp, but it took a real big detour. I think what was telling for me was when was the scene with the father and the son with the music. The pastor at the church, he was all about the law. That there was specific things that his son needed to do and needed to stay away from sin. But there was no grace. There was nothing. It was this is what you need to do. Don't do this. Do this. And then when the son made the choice to leave, it was even in his departure. As he began to speak the scriptures, he shut the book and quoted the rest of it from memory. Like, yeah, I got that. I'm gonna go do what I want to do. And so it was just kind of a dismissal of all things religious and Christian. After that, the movie for me just took a down. Everything from there went downhill. To see you mentioned the profanity of the women during that period. Women would have never said the things like that. So then I recognized that the person who made the movie is targeting a very different audience. And as he targeted this 2025 youth culture, what was striking to me, my wife and I were there. We saw it, last night about 7:30 in the evening, and it was packed, predominantly Black audience. The things that they were laughing at, I never found funny. The things that the audience laughed at, I never found funny. And it was usually the crass thing that the woman was saying about her sexuality. They would think that was funny, and I didn't think it was funny. And the things that I did think were funny, no one in the room was laughing at. So I realized this movie is not made for guys like me. This is made for a different audience, targeting a different idea altogether. And I love what Anthony did and with the twos and the different things. And after I watched the movie and I listened to people talk about the movie on TikTok and were given their ideas about what was going on in the movie, it became clear to me that there's a lot of folks doing kind of what I call the matrixing of a movie. In other words, whenever people were watching The Matrix, there were 20 million ideas and Matrix philosophies and all these kinds of things that you could kind of put together based upon The Matrix. And people were doing the same thing with this movie in particular. And in my opinion, it didn't even have the depth of anything like The Matrix. It appealed to an audience who saw white people as devils or vampires and saw them as oppressive or oppression. It identified music as the savior. Music is now the savior throughout. Christ was abandoned early on. So music is the savior, the way that they play. And it had been throughout time, which was the scene that was all confusing with, scratching DJs and hip hop rap and, the music of the day and all of that. Music was the savior. And so that was the theme. Sexual freedom was the expression of the day. Everybody was trying to get some of the sexual relationships didn't even make sense to me, but I guess they were there to prove some kind of point. Witchcraft becomes their protection. I thought that was the strangest thing ever, that they would appeal to roots and witchcraft in order to be protected. And faith in God was barely a whisper at all. I mean, there were so many factors to this that in my mind were problematic. I won't go through every detail of it. I'll let the conversation unfold. But I was disappointed that this low bar for entertainment is what Black people are rallying to in mass and are talking about to a great degree. That was my takeaway. I'm like, man, it's a real low bar to entertain. And the lower the bar, the more crass, the more carnal, the more, the farther away we can get from anything Christian or spiritual, the more people seem to flock to it and appreciate it.
It seemed the only time there was racial harmony was when people got bit in the neck. Like, that's the only time was when they all went to evil and they all started saying the Lord's Prayer together in unison when they were all infected with evil. My other question is, what happened to the Choctaws? They made an appearance and they were gone. I thought they were going to come back at some point.
They were some of the holiest people in the film.
Right. What
tried
happened
to
to
warn
them? They're
them.
going to come back and save the day at some point.
No.
They were singing in the background of as they were leaving and going off.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
that early part in the movie where they showed up at the house, that's the last time we saw them. And the movie checked all the DEI boxes in terms of, hey, let's draw up something where Native Americans are playing a role. And we're talking about in Mississippi.
Right.
I thought that was, the Native Americans were more West and Oklahoma.
There's Choctaw, Mississippi, but they got mostly in Oklahoma for sure.
Got you. And so let's check that box. We've come up with a small role for Native Americans. We're deep down south, and a Chinaman and his wife running the biggest store down there, and so we've put the Asians in the movies. The people of color are all grouped up together, and the white woman who may have been partially black and passing as white or whatever, she's on their team. And Kevin, you nailed it in terms of, like, once you adopt the evil and the wickedness, now we can have unity.
Right.
And they did say that, like, once we kill all of you, now we'll be in heaven and we'll all be over here on the dark side. And so the hero was the young boy that said, I'm not going to follow God. I'm not going to follow the gangsters. I'm going to be my own God and do what I want to do.
Yes.
And so that, to me, and movies used to be simple, and they used to, whether we liked it or not, they reflected the Christian ethos and tradition. There would be a male hero that would come save the day, and he, generally speaking, had Christian values, and that's whether we liked the movie Shane or not, or whether we liked any of these classic westerns.
We got to put Godfather off then.
Yeah, Godfather. But I'm just talking about what. But look, even with the Godfather, at least there was hey man, I'm doing this for my family.
Okay.
And the Godfather was really, and if you read the book, he was actually, as it relates to sexuality and other, he was hyper moral. Hyper moral. If you read the book, as it relates to sexuality, and they actually, it's left out of the movie, but in the book it's a big deal. Johnny Fontaine goes off to Hollywood, and he looks at the sexual depravity going on and says, "Oh, the Godfather would not be on board with this."
Wow.
Anyway,
it's
at least they're doing. There was something redeeming when I still watch The Godfather, and I get all the criminality and all that other stuff, but movies used to adhere to that. Now they have a very secular message, and this movie to me had a hyper secular message, and it seemed just clear cut of okay, don't go the gangster route, but definitely don't go the God route, and go play music for gangsters. And
even the guys shooting the dude in the street.
Yes.
Like casually shooting someone
Yeah.
in the streets in 1930s.
Yeah.
I mean,
let me tell you and this is my takeaway, Anthony, on that. It's just like what they did. The message of the movie was for young people was, okay, now look, Michael B. Jordan, they're bad guys. They're just like these guys today that just shoot other black dudes in the street. They're bad people. And yes, we like to go to nightclubs and have sex with married women. And yes, we like to use drugs. And we'll roll up some weed and use. And yes, we got drunks. I forget the black dude that played the drunk or whatever. Yes, we are screwed up. but we ain't as bad as these white people. They devils. That was the takeaway from the whole two concept. You have to do some reading and some study. You have to know Ryan Coogler.
No, just watch the film. If you watch it from a lens, so this is the lens that I don't go to the movie, and maybe this is my subjectivity. I don't look at any movie now. We're talking post 2000, basically. I don't look at any of them to look for a Christian ethos. I don't look for any of them to stick to a traditional idea of love and I already come in with that bar that low because they don't make them like that anymore. That's just so when I see this, what he's I'm trying to take it as he's giving it to me. He's showing, okay, this is what it is. Like he's not trying to. I don't see him trying to promote either kind of. I think he's doing more narrative telling that, hey, this is what happens. I also see the music part of this. It was Sammy playing the music that could have either summoned good, but it also summoned bad. And that was one of the warnings that I think his father was given, was like, hey, because he told him in the first part of the movie, yeah, I brought that guitar in here. Even though the father was not fully on board with music, yeah, I brought it in here. And I also want you to read this text. Did you see the post-credit scenes?
I don't know. Maybe not.
I didn't stay that long.
There were 2 post-credit scenes. So there was one scene, it's called a mid-credit scene, right during the credits. It's an older version of Sammy. He's like,
oh, I saw that,
okay,
where he's playing.
He's about 80.
He's
okay.
basically B.B. King at that point with scars on his face.
Right.
Yeah.
But even after that, there was a scene. The very last scene you see is Sammy playing This Little Light of Mine on the steps of his father's church.
Okay.
And what I don't know what to do with that, I don't know if Coogler is trying to suggest he did play gospel music for a period of time, or if this was a previous view of Sammy that, yeah, he could play. But he was singing This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine.
And once again, this is where I'll say, these guys are doing too much, and they're expecting too much of the audience. Oh, now I got to sit through all the credits to get your final messaging. Hey, put it in the movie. Make it simple for me. They've made it a job, and there's homework to do of this movie afterwards. And I think kids don't do homework. And I ain't got time for it. Go ahead, Virgil. I'm sorry.
Jason, even that song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine, that isn't about Christ. That's about you letting your light shine, right? And that could be interpreted in a myriad of different ways. He held on to the blues. The blues and music was salvation. And so this little light of mine, his blues, he was going to let it shine. That had nothing to do with pointing back to Christianity or Christ or anything that his father taught him from the beginning. The other thing that I would say about that I think is really kind of telling. It's just I hear what Anthony is saying about the fact that, we don't, post 2000, we no longer see, any Christian themes or any Christ-like themes. I get that. But most movies, even if you think about Django, you had a person who was evil, a person who was good, and good overcame evil. And you got a chance to witness that throughout the movie. It was clear who was good and who was evil, and you could identify with it, historically speaking, even in the time period in which the movie was actually put together. That wasn't the case here. This was just absolute confusion all the way around, and white people, not what they were doing, but just the fact that they were white was the issue of that attached them to the evilness that they involved themselves with. This is confusion. It's not even a good versus evil, light versus darkness, right versus wrong. It's just absolute chaos, and it's more, I guess, of the postmodern culture in which we live, and with the racial idolatry thing, and white being oppressive.
Virgil, I love the Django analogy. Hadn't thought of it because I love the movie Django.
Go ahead.
I really think it's good. There's good, there's evil. This man loved his wife, wanted his wife back, and was willing to go to the ends of the earth to get his wife back. It's, of the movies made in the last 20 years, it's one of the few movies I can watch over and over again without feeling violated. And so that's there. This whole deal of there is no good and evil, and that we're all just evil, and if we'd all just admit that and acknowledge that, we would now have harmony. That's a really satanic message when those of us that know the truth, it's like, no, if we all submit, then we'll have some real harmony. Then, we'll have some real celebration. And so I get my standards for movies. I go to virtually every movie I go only so I can evaluate it and figure out what they're trying to say to the culture. I don't go for enjoyment because I'm always shocked when I do enjoy a movie. So my standards have been lowered, but I can't, when I see something this clearly targeted at a certain demographic of young people, and I'm looking around and the place was packed. I was sitting right next to a bunch of kids, and I could see how they were receiving the movie. And just like Virgil, I'm like, it was like when they stabbed the evil white character in my theater, the audience erupted, and I was just completely indifferent. And I was like, wow, they're really into this movie, and they have identified who they think is the bad guy in this movie. And I'm just like, all these people are repulsive to me.
But all the vampires were bad. All the vampires were bad.
All the people were bad in this movie.
No, I got what I'm saying is we see it differently. I do agree it wasn't a good versus evil. I'm saying it was a survival. That was it. Salmon was just a survivor. I don't see him as a hero. I see him that I survived. I'm not advocating the message, but in terms of the vampires, the initial vampire was white, and the two people that he infected were white.
Yeah.
But then after they started biting everybody else, they were killing all the vampires, not just the white ones.
I got it.
Yeah.
But between the 3 white vampires that showed up to infect everybody else, the KKK guy that sold him the building, and then brought the KKK, and somehow Michael B. Jordan. The thing at the end made no sense. How would he just went up all night fighting, and everybody basically died, and he says, you know what? I just got here yesterday, but the KKK is coming, and so I'm going to go hide in the bushes with this gun, and I'm going to mow them all down.
He turned into Rambo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like, this is crazy. And that was the final, deal of, if you missed it, and someone's going to tell you that it was just the vampires, no, it's white people. They showed up, these real-life vampires that hadn't been bitten. They showed up to do even more destruction, and our hero, whatever one of Michael B. Jordan's brothers was named, killed them all, and black woman reappears, and she's got a baby, and they float off into heaven when he died. Bad movie.
Well, and the characters were likable. I loved all the characters. I thought the acting was great. I really did. There wasn't a character I didn't like, which makes it, to me, even more subversive because it enrolls me in the film, and I'm kind of rooting for one guy, and I'm kind of hoping for the others, and then there I am, and it's chaos.
The last thing I'll say, just in terms of what they're trying to tell young people, your ancestors were just like you, and they were having sex in the club before Usher ever sang the song. The man that went into the back room and dropped down to his knees to give fellatio to the woman that was married. Married woman. It's like, why is this in this movie? What plot was this driving? How was it advancing the movie? Other than, hey, these people had given in to their sexual liberation and sexual lust. That I don't know what other point there could be. Then, I guess the white woman screwing one of the Michael B. Jordan brothers, I guess that sex scene somewhat made sense because that's when she bit and converted him into a vampire, but it was all just too much. The 3 male characters all had sex scenes that were unnecessary and didn't advance the plot.
Sex scenes in movies, I agree with.
Yeah.
We don't need them at all. There was a whole bunch of vulgarity, crass. I took points off in my count because of that. I think that's understood. Like that piece, we don't.
But the vulgarity, that was the most intentional part of it.
But you remember, Jason, we did a review on Bad Boys. That was my same, the new Bad Boys that just came out. That was my same, like, the movie could have been really good, but the vulgarity just, it took it.
Look, Bad Boys, that's happening in 2023, 2024, whatever.
Okay.
And so that language is a reflection
Gotcha.
of where we're at now.
Gotcha.
They're lying to you and saying, well, no, this is the way black women talked in 1932. And that's just not true.
But you're suspending imagination because it is a vampire movie.
Well, make it in modern times when women talk that way. If you're going to do a period piece, you could try to get the language right. If you're going to do a period.
Maybe all that sinning, maybe this is a point I just came up with maybe. All that sinning that was happening is what attracted Satan and attracted the devil. And so the devil's waiting there for all these sinners to come out and join his crew. Maybe that was
And you
part of the
saw
point.
that, Kevin,
Yeah,
in the end with the vampire to make them, as he's saying, hey, come with us.
Yeah, it's going to be
and
better.
we will have our type of heaven.
You're halfway there already with what you're doing in this juke.
Kevin saw the film, Jason.
And you know what? What they should have done is call one of Michael B. Jordan's characters Diddy and called the white vampire Jeffrey Epstein.
Why you pointing at me?
I didn't point. I just put my hand. It should have been Jeffrey Epstein and Diddy. Jeffrey Epstein's the vampire, and Diddy is the guy that can't wait to join Epstein on Epstein. That's what, and they should. Epstein and Diddy is what they should have called the movie Sinners. Anyway, that's it, and that's all for us on the movie Sinners. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.